Discover the amazing hidden wonders of Earth during the Ice Age. A transformative journey exposed. Emma paused, her heart racing not from the chill of the wind whipping through the forest, but from the sheer weight of her unfulfilled dreams. She had traded her childhood passion for paleontology for the steadiness of her current life as a community college biology professor. A single mother wrestling not just with bills, but with the relentless reality of lost ambition. Today, as she and her 8-year-old son Lucas clambered along the trail, the ache of dreams deferred gnawed at her. The intertwining roots and jagged rocks reminded her starkly of the path she had chosen, a tangled journey far from the wide-open expanse of adventure she had once longed for. "Mom, look!" Lucas yelled, his excitement breaking her reverie. He pointed eagerly at the ground. Emma approached, her brow furrowing as she knelt beside him. There, jutting out from the earth, was a unique fossil, the unmistakable imprint of a prehistoric creature. Her breath caught in her throat, an electric thrill jolting her. "Can we keep it?" Lucas's wide eyes sparkled with wonder. But for Emma, this wasn't just a rock. It was a spark, a key to a world she thought she'd shut away. This discovery called to her, weaving into her being threads of nostalgia and ambition. Could she really reclaim her passion? As the days turned to weeks, Emma dove into research, exploring forgotten corners of the Ice Age. Her late nights were filled with excitement, but doubts lurked in every shadow. What would her colleagues think? After all, she had surrendered her place in academia long ago to focus on her family. When she shared her findings with the department, some eyes glimmered with skepticism. "Emma, is there really a future here for you? You've been out of the loop for years." Each word punctured her resolve. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Then came the conference announcement. Dr. Benson, an established figure in paleontology, was speaking, and his notoriety loomed ominously in the background of her preparations. Each encounter with him stung. He often brushed her aside, dismissing her enthusiasm as misguided folly. The palpable tension that built between them felt unbearable, each interaction leaving her doubting her worth. On the day of the conference, Emma felt like a performer walking on a tightrope, balancing the shame of her previous choices against the hope of renewed passion. As she stepped up to present her findings, adrenaline surged. But as she peered into the sea of faces, horror washed over her. Her heart thudded as Dr. Benson's smirk burrowed deep into her subconscious. Within moments, he interrupted her, tearing into her research with a barrage of questions that sent the audience buzzing, their eyes filled with skepticism. The harsh scrutiny of academia felt suffocating. His words cut through her. Was she just an imposter chasing an impossible dream? Would the world ever accept her? The air thickened, every second stretching endlessly, pushing her to the brink of despair. What if she was simply not enough? How could she stand her ground when the weight of doubt anchored her to failure? As Dr. Benson challenged her, each rebuff magnifying her fears, Emma realized she was not just battling for academic acceptance, she was fighting for her identity. For the daughter of the earth she once aspired to be, the mother she fought to provide for. As she opened her mouth, ready to defend her work, she felt the tension coil inside her, a perfect storm threatening to erupt. Would she find the courage to claim her voice? Or would she remain silenced, part of a history forgotten? Emma stood there, trembling slightly as Dr. Benson's voice reverberated in her mind. Each critique felt like a steel trap closing around her resolve. Instinct told her to retreat, to apologize for her novice enthusiasm. But another voice, a whisper of defiance, urged her to push back. The ferocity of her dreams ignited a spark within. "Dr. Benson," she began, her voice steadier than she felt, "I may have been away from this field, but my passion has not diminished. This discovery is more than a study. It is a pathway to understanding our planet's history, one that I am eager to explore. The surprise flickering across the audience was tangible. A few heads nodded in faint support, but the smirk on Dr. Benson's face remained. She clenched her fists, feeling the warmth of determination flow through her veins. "You're saying you've unearthed something significant," he replied, dismissively. "But you haven't proven it. You haven't even been conducting relevant research. What makes you think you're qualified?" His words hit hard, a bitter reminder of every moment she had doubted her journey. Yet, beneath that sting, she felt an avalanche of thoughts surge forward about the countless nights spent studying, her repeated sacrifices for Lucas, and the fascination that had driven her to her choice in the first place. "I can prove it," she declared, her voice rising above the murmurs in the room. "And I will." The words caught her off guard, but a clarity emerged. The path she must take started with this very moment. In the days following the emboldened presentation, Emma immersed herself in research with renewed vigor. She sought out additional resources, connected with fellow paleontologists online, and dug deeper into the Ice Age theories that had long captivated her. Each piece of information became a building block against the walls of doubt. Yet self-critique lingered like a persistent shadow. Emma found herself oscillating between resolve and fear, no matter how many advances she made. While others cheered her on, she often felt like an imposter in this new quest, in academia, even in motherhood as she juggled her commitments. One evening, as Lucas finished his homework, he glanced through her notes stacked across the dining table, filled with diagrams and colorful annotations. "Mom, can I help?" he asked, his excitement palpable as he held up a crude drawing of a woolly mammoth. A surge of warmth filled Emma, grounding her amid the swirling thoughts. "Yes, definitely," she exclaimed, grateful for a moment to share her passion with him, not as a teacher or mentor, but as a fellow explorer. They spent hours sketching out ideas, and for the first time, the elation she had felt as a child returned. With each line they drew, her hesitation receded. However, the next day brought tension anew when she received an email inviting her to a workshop hosted by Dr. Benson. This was a chance to further her understanding, to have a platform for collaboration. But she hesitated. Risking another confrontation felt daunting. The decision loomed large in her mind, to extend her reach into the academic world once again or to retreat back to the safety of her modest routine. Would she shatter any remnants of doubt, or would the weight of negativity pull her under? Emma closed her eyes, the din of conflicting thoughts swirling around. The moment of truth loomed. The path ahead awaited, fraught with potential and peril. Would she summon the courage to join, or would fear keep her shackled to the sidelines? Emma spent the next few days wrestling with her decision. The invitation to Dr. Benson's workshop felt like a lifeline and a noose simultaneously, each aspect tugging at her with equal force. She woke early each morning, the faint light creeping through the kitchen window illuminating her notes scattered across the table. The titles of her research papers blinked at her like distant stars, urging her to remember why she had embarked on this journey in the first place. Every time her resolve began to solidify, her mind recoiled with vivid images of Dr. Benson's sneering face, the weight of his cynicism hanging over her like a storm cloud. How could she possibly face him again without crumbling? Yet, another part of her, the part ignited within the very walls of that presentation, snapped back with a fierce reminder of her capabilities. She had poured her heart into this venture, and the distinct possibility of collaboration offered by the workshop beckoned to her spirit. On Friday evening, after Lucas had gone to bed, Emma made a choice. She opened her laptop and began typing her acceptance to the workshop. With each stroke on the keyboard, she envisioned her upcoming interactions, imagining the potential for growth not only in her research but in her sense of identity. If she publicly acknowledged her interest and her findings, perhaps it would metamorphose her role in the academic world from an outsider to a legitimate contender. Despite her initial excitement, doubt flooded her system the next morning as she prepared for the workshop. Who was she to expect respect from her peers when she had faced such intimidation just weeks prior? Stepping out of her room, she noticed Lucas navigating a complex Lego structure, a miniature replica of a dinosaur, his concentration unwavering. Seeing his focus spurred something in Emma. If he could build this intricate world from mere plastic bricks, surely she could construct a place for herself in the realm of paleontology. Brick by brick. At the venue, anticipation swirled in the air, a frenetic energy that made her heart race, a cacophony of voices discussing research she had only begun to grasp. Dr. Benson stood at the front, effortlessly commanding attention. Emma's heart sank at the sight of him, but she steeled herself, recalling her commitment to step into the space of growth. As the workshop commenced, a strange mix of exhilaration and apprehension enveloped her. With each presentation, she looked for validation, seeking confirmation of her worth. When her turn finally came, she rose, clutching her notes with an intensity that felt alien to her. The faces around her were a blur, but the gaze fixed upon hers from Dr. Benson burned like a spotlight, the scrutiny forcing her to confront her insecurities. "I wish to discuss my findings on the Ice Age," she began, and as she spoke, something within her ignited. Ideas flowed from lips, weaving her passion into the fabric of her words. She spoke not only about data and evidence but also about the significance of those discoveries in understanding human history. The room began to shift. Curious glances emerged among peers, and for the first time, Emma sensed their interest in what she had to say. Instead of faltering under Dr. Benson's critical eye, she accumulated strength from their engagement, an unexpected prompt that propelled her delivery. When she finished, a wave of applause surged through the audience. Though she noticed Dr. Benson's face remained stoic, a shadow of apprehension flickered within her. Had she truly earned their respect, or merely encountered fleeting generosity? As she stepped down, she felt a rush of exhilaration and fear. She had plunged into the academic fray and emerged relatively unscathed. Yet, Dr. Benson approached her with a neutral expression, and as he drew near, Emma's heart raced, the looming confrontation promising clarity or further confusion. "Your approach was interesting," he said, his voice tinged with an authority she both feared and craved. Emma straightened her back, a surge of defiance pulsing through her. "Interesting is a start," she shot back. The ensuing exchange carried weight, a battle of intellect and resolve. As they argued their contrasting views on the findings, Emma realized that the time had indeed come to face her doubts head-on, even if they carried the voice of authority. Yet, even amid her burgeoning confidence, an unsettling thought began to emerge. Was her growth merely the beginning, or would this confrontation herald deeper challenges ahead? The journey she had embarked upon was transforming in ways she could never have anticipated. Tension hung in the air, her revelations sparking more questions than answers. Would she seize this momentum or succumb to the fears still simmering beneath the surface? Emma felt the edges of her journey stretch into the unknown, and she prepared for the next step, unable to ignore the thrill and dread of possibilities lurking just around the corner. As the workshop concluded, Emma felt the vibrant energy coursing through her veins, infusing her thoughts with purpose. Conversations buzzed around her like a constant hum, her peers exuding enthusiasm and camaraderie that both fascinated and intimidated her. Each exchange etched an imprint in her mind, a reminder of how far she had already ventured beyond her self-imposed isolation. Yet, Dr. Benson's scrutinizing gaze lingered as an echo of doubt in her heart. Determined to leverage this newfound confidence, Emma immersed herself in the workshop discussions. The topics brought forth a range of scientific philosophies that stirred her intellect. Their arguments and evidence called into question not just their findings but her own beliefs, forcing her to navigate the tenuous line between admiration and rivalry. She noted how easily others challenged each other, their debates shifting seamlessly from respect to heated confrontation and back again. Emma's throat tightened as she considered the vulnerability entwined in such dialogues. These moments triggered a realization. Her greatest growth could stem from taking measured risks, much like her peers. She approached a small group discussing the role of climate change during the Ice Age, her heart pounding with both fear and exhilaration. Each face turned toward her, their expressions a mix of curiosity and expectation. "I'd like to contribute," she ventured. The words felt heavy yet liberating. As she shared her perspectives on the adaptive strategies of ancient species, Emma felt the pull of camaraderie, igniting a spark she had long sought. In that exchange, she discovered her ability to articulate complex concepts in ways that resonated deeply. She engaged in spirited discussions, her voice gaining strength with each agreement and challenge she received. Each supportive nod fueled her ambition further and carved out a space for her insights. But in the periphery, Dr. Benson continued to loom, his critical evaluations a constant reminder of the potential judgment she still faced. Each time she soared in conversation, a flicker of his cold disapproval reminded her of how precarious her footing was in this new territory. Could she genuinely believe in her worth, or would his perspective dampen her progress? Over the following days, her evenings dedicated to study and reflection, she found herself drawn to her research papers with renewed fervor. Dr. Benson's critiques gnawed at her thoughts, but she began to channel that frustration into clarity. She revisited her data, dissecting her findings without apologies. Just as she had meticulously built Lucas's Lego structures into intricate realms, Emma too began layering her academic pursuits step by step. In a moment of inspiration, she crafted a plan to recalibrate her approach to the scientific community. She would not only refine her research but also actively seek feedback. This meant reaching out to colleagues and experts, inviting them for collaborations that pushed her boundaries. She drafted a series of emails, inviting specific individuals to discuss potential joint projects. As she typed, she imagined their reactions: surprise, intrigue, maybe even skepticism. But their engagement would be part of the growth she longed for. However, on the edge of this burgeoning confidence, a gnawing anxiety never fully departed. With every proactive step, she also felt the weight of looming critical evaluations, particularly from Dr. Benson. Would he appreciate her newfound assertiveness, or would it exacerbate his disdain? Noticing her growing apprehension, Lucas wandered in one evening, his Lego dinosaur towering behind him. "Mom, can I help you build something?" he asked, innocence sparkling in his eyes. This simple question grounded Emma. She smiled, the miniature structures they built reminding her that growth didn't have to be monumental each time. Small, conscious decisions could lead to significant change. Encouraged, she returned to her plans for collaboration with a deep breath, but an unexpected email notification disrupted her focus. The subject line read, "Project Review Next Steps." It was from Dr. Benson, his tone formal and revealing. The message was brimming with insights about their future confrontations, a cue that changed everything. Emma read on, her pulse quickening, as she realized the implications of his words. Did he want her to contribute to an upcoming project? Or was it a mere trap designed to elicit her weaknesses before an audience? Both thrilled and apprehensive, she buried her fingers into her palms, the decision looming large. Would she take the plunge into this next venture under Dr. Benson's watchful eye, or retreat back into the familiar shadows of doubt? As anticipation raced within her, the urge to confront the challenge surged like wildfire. The echoes of her newly built world, both in her research and personal life, whispered a thrilling promise. The time for reckoning had arrived. Emma sat at her desk, her fingers lingering over the keyboard, as she processed the weight of Dr. Benson's email. The opportunity to participate in a project alongside him flooded her with an unsettling blend of eagerness and anxiety. This was her moment to either refine her voice within the scientific community or retreat into the shadows of fear that she had battled for so long. For the first time, she realized that Dr. Benson's presence might not solely signify criticism. It could also become a pivotal catalyst for her growth. His rigorous expectations could lift her to heights she had not yet imagined. She could feel the spark of determination ignite again, brightening the corners of her doubt. She took a deep breath and began typing her response. "I appreciate the opportunity for collaboration. I believe my recent findings on adaptive resilience could contribute to our discussions." As she pressed send, a sense of exhilaration surged within her. Not only had she taken a concrete step towards involvement, but she affirmed her own worth in the process. The fear that had ridden her shoulders began to lift, replaced by a burgeoning sense of purpose. The days flew by as Emma prepared for the upcoming project meeting. Every evening, she immersed herself in research, seeking to consolidate her arguments and insights. Dr. Benson had set the date for the meeting, and with each passing moment, her anticipation melded with heightened anxiety. Each well-structured presentation she watched reinforced her resolve to articulate her ideas with clarity and confidence. However, as the date loomed closer, her thoughts spiraled into a haze of uncertainty. What if her contributions were met with the same disdain she had felt before? The nagging whispers of Dr. Benson's past criticism surfaced, casting a shadow over her optimism. "Breathe," she whispered to herself. "You have a voice and the ability to make it matter." Emma's resolve solidified when she reached out to a few colleagues she had forged connections with in the workshop. Their encouragement lifted her spirits, reminding her of her strengths and the value of diverse perspectives. They agreed to review her findings, providing feedback that unexpectedly reignited her competitive spark. Engaging in discussions with them filled with spirited debate and enthusiasm fueled her confidence. But as the project meeting approached, the specter of Dr. Benson loomed ever larger. She envisioned him scrutinizing her every word, dissecting her ideas before they even took flight. The evening before the meeting, Emma set aside her work and grabbed the Lego structures she had built with Lucas, trying to channel the creative spirit of playfulness that had initially inspired her process. As she manipulated the pieces, a new thought crystallized in her mind. Growth stemmed not only from the promises of success, but also from confronting failure. She returned to her drafts, refining her arguments with the understanding that her vulnerability could be her greatest asset. Each sentence became an assertion of her learning journey, a testament to her tenacity. The next day, nerves danced in her stomach as she entered the meeting room. The air was thick with anticipation, the table lined with faces, some familiar, others foreign. Across from her, Dr. Benson's unyielding gaze was discerning. Yet there was a flicker of curiosity she hadn't anticipated. As Emma began her presentation, she commanded the room with her findings. With each data point and theory she shared, she fortified her resolve. The skepticism that initially crept into her mind was met with clarity in her arguments and passion in her delivery. Questions emerged from the audience, some difficult yet fair, inviting a dynamic that mirrored the workshop debates she had come to admire. Emma thrived amid the scrutiny, engaging thoughtfully with her peers while addressing Dr. Benson directly, her confidence defying any lingering dread. But as she reveled in this moment, a sudden observation twisted her stomach. Dr. Benson's gaze had shifted. And no longer bore the icy judgment she had dreaded. Instead, it glimmered with something unexpected. Was it intrigue or, dare she hope, respect? The meeting concluded with a sense of promise, yet Emma was acutely aware that she had crossed only the first threshold of her journey. Dr. Benson called her aside, his expression unreadable. "We need to discuss your approach further," he said, a hint of deliberation in his tone. Emma's heart raced at the implication. Would this discussion nurture her growing confidence or lead her back into self-doubt? The potential for both empowerment and turbulence loomed large, inviting the next challenge. Emma stood outside Dr. Benson's office, her heart thudding against her ribcage, each pulse an echo of her anxiety. She replayed the meeting in her mind, the eager faces of her colleagues, the passion she had tapped into, and Dr. Benson's penetrating gaze that seemed to measure not just her work but her potential. Now, confronted with the very person whose approval felt so critical, her instincts wavered. Knocking softly, she stepped into the room, a rush of emotion flooding through her. There he sat, poised with a pen in hand, his expression inscrutable. "Sit," he instructed, his voice steady, yet carrying an undertone that made her stomach tighten. As she took her seat, the air crackled with the weight of unspoken expectations. Emma grappled with the urge to fill the silence with her thoughts, her insights, but chose to wait. Silence demanded discipline, and she needed to show that she had grown. After a beat, Dr. Benson broke the stillness. "Your presentation was surprisingly compelling. You have a unique perspective on adaptive resilience." Flattery and critique merged in his tone, leaving her uncertain of where she stood. It felt as though he were dissecting her with his words, considering the implications of her work and the person behind it. "Thank you," she replied, steadying her voice. "I believe that our understanding of resilience can reshape our future research priorities. Nevertheless, I sensed you were still holding back," he pointedly observed, leaning back in his chair. "You have this wealth of experience." And yet there were moments he paused, the weight of his expectations palpable, where you could have been bolder. Why not challenge the assumptions? The question anchored Emma, forcing a confrontation with her deepest fears. Why was she tentative? Her mind flashed back to moments of doubt, previous critiques, and the distant echo of dismissive laughter. But she wasn't that version of herself anymore. Here she had an opportunity and a purpose. "I recognize that, and I appreciate the feedback," she replied, her voice gaining volume. "However, maybe my hesitance comes from wanting to ensure that my contributions are thoroughly grounded before pushing boundaries." Dr. Benson raised an eyebrow. "You can't be a sustainable scientist if you never dare to tread uncharted waters." His words ignited something within her, a flicker of defiance, a challenge to step beyond her comfort zone. She leaned forward, pushing aside the remnants of self-doubt. "I understand that now. I think I need to embrace risk if I want to grow. Failure can be part of the learning curve, and that's where innovation thrives." A moment passed as Dr. Benson assessed her, the silence heavy yet charged with potential. Finally, he nodded slightly, as if acknowledging a truth she had only just begun to grasp. "Good. I want you to lead a sub-study under this project, something bold to test those assumptions you fear confronting." Emma's heart raced, a mixture of disbelief and thrill coursing through her veins. Leading a sub-study? This was more responsibility than she could have imagined. The fear crept back in, but this time it was not the overbearing kind, more like a visitor who had shown up uninvited. "What do you wish to focus on?" he pressed, eyes narrowing with intrigue. This was her moment, her chance to map the potential of her ideas in a way that could influence the entire field. She thought of the discussions she had held with her colleagues, the insights they had shared, and the collective energy that had sparked her newfound determination. She wanted to explore the intersection of resilience and climate adaptability, highlighting strategies that could aid communities in facing future challenges. "I want to explore adaptive resilience in the context of climate change," she declared, her voice steady now. "How different ecological and human systems can adapt and thrive despite the collapsing paradigms surrounding them." Dr. Benson's expression brightened, an unmistakable praise glimmering in his eyes. "Now that's a bold move. Let us get started then." As they discussed the next steps, Emma felt a shift within her, each word exchanged chipping away at the remaining shards of her apprehension. The conversation flowed, illuminating paths she hadn't considered, and she reveled in the challenge of leading the sub-study with determination that felt authentic. With each decision she made, Emma's faith in her capabilities expanded, intertwining her fear with a new semblance of excitement, the opportunity to break boundaries, to be the scientist she always aspired to be. But just as she felt she was gaining traction, the question hung heavy in the air. Could she truly confront and reshape the deeply ingrained beliefs within the scientific community? Emma knew that the risk would be substantial, but it was only in facing that risk, and the people who adhered to those beliefs, that she would uncover the depth of her own potential. And somewhere in the back of her mind, another thought lingered, taunting her, a bitter taste of the challenges that lay ahead. Was she ready to face not only her own fears but the resistance that might come from those who disdained change? The moment of truth was on the horizon, the stakes climbing higher. Would she rise to the occasion, or would she falter under the weight of her aspirations? The journey was just beginning. Emma left Dr. Benson's office with a buoyant sense of purpose, yet a lingering trepidation crawled alongside her newfound confidence. Each step down the corridor echoed with the potential of her bold decision. Embracing that risk meant entering a realm of the unknown, where failure might lurk in the shadows. The thoughts raced faster than her feet, reflecting the adrenaline rush of her commitment to the sub-study. Her first day back at the lab was marked by an exploration of her team dynamics. Emma sat among her colleagues, her heart racing as she contemplated how to approach them. Would they rally behind her vision, or would doubts cloud their judgment? The hum of the lab filled the air, scientific discussions ringing in her ears like a prelude to her unfolding journey. Determination crystallized within her when she focused on the task at hand. They would need a concise, compelling plan. Emma was determined to approach the group as a leader, not with an intimidating presence but as a collaborator. Gleaning from the encouragement Dr. Benson had unknowingly instilled in her, she approached her teammates with a blend of enthusiasm and vulnerability. "Can we gather for a quick brainstorming session?" Emma initiated, her voice tinged with a hint of nervousness. "I have an idea I'd love to discuss regarding adaptive resilience." The gathering was electric. As she spoke, the initial flutter of her heart gave way to a steady rhythm, fueled by each nod and curious gaze from her colleagues. Collective ideas flowed, illuminating facets of her research she had not yet considered. They exchanged voices like seasoned musicians, each one adding richness to the melody of her intentions. With each suggestion, Emma felt her confidence swell. This was the validation she needed to push through her doubts. But challenges were inevitable. As discussions progressed, a familiar figure emerged who seemed less keen on the notion of risk. Jason, a senior scientist with a reputation for adherence to traditional research methods, raised an eyebrow. "Isn't this a bit ambitious, Emma? The data isn't definitive yet. We could be opening ourselves up to scrutiny." His challenge struck like ice water against her enthusiasm, stirring an anxiety she had hoped was behind her. Yet, rather than recoil, she drew from the well of her inner strength and took a moment to breathe. "Ambition is what drives innovation, Jason," she replied, steady in her articulation. "We have to test the boundaries if we want to uncover new truths. Isn't our ultimate goal to advance the field?" Attention hung in the air, a fork in the path between fear and courage. Jason's expression hardened. Though he often dismissed youthful idealism, he was not immune to a well-structured argument. "I'm not against innovation," he countered, a hint of respect tinging his tone, "but we must be grounded in the reliability of our evidence." Emma recognized the familiar hesitation of apprehension. She had been there before, vacillating between bravado and vulnerability. In that vulnerable moment, her mind whispered reminders of her journey, the promises she made to herself in Dr. Benson's office. "What if we could gather preliminary data, a pilot phase to test our hypotheses? It might strengthen our case and make the study more manageable." The push and pull of intellectual discourse ignited Emma's drive further. She could feel the shift in the room, that fragile web of acceptance forming as her colleagues engaged in spirited debate. As the discussions progressed, Emma began assigning roles, envisioning the facets of the project: data collection, community outreach, analytical frameworks. With each hand raised in agreement, Emma's resolve solidified. This was her moment to not just contribute, but to lead. Days turned into weeks as the project took shape. Emma honed her skills dissecting data trends and articulating findings with newfound clarity. Her belief in her vision began to solidify, each step forward dismantling the walls that had once muted her voice. Yet, her progress brought with it intensified introspection. Was Jason right? Was her ambition merely masking a lack of definitive proof? Then came the moment she had both anticipated and dreaded. Presenting their initial findings to Dr. Benson. Would she prove worthy of the opportunity he had bestowed upon her, or falter and reveal her weaknesses? Emma's heart raced as she rehearsed her pitch, the fear of potential criticism looming like a shadow over her resolve. She could feel time slip away, her inner dialogue a whirl of determination laden with doubt. In that moment, she resolved to confront not just the scrutiny of her research but her own lingering insecurities. After all, standing up for her work demanded more than intellectual bravery. It required full ownership of her potential. With every ounce of strength, she straightened her back and stepped back into the spotlight, uncertain yet steadfast. Would she rise to meet the tension in the room, or would her unease sabotage her aspirations? The stage was set for the ultimate confrontation, and with it came the seeds of transformation both for her work and her identity. Emma's journey was not just about the science. It was about evolving into the leader she knew she could be. The pressure built, and with it an undeniable question lingered. Would she be able to withstand the weight of expectations or discover a new depth within herself as she faced the upcoming crucible? Emma stood at the front of the room, her heart thundering in her chest. The fluorescent lights overhead felt blinding, illuminating the faces of her colleagues who peered at her with a blend of curiosity and skepticism. She gripped the remote for her presentation slides tightly as a bead of sweat trickled down her back. This was her moment, a leap from the shadows into the light of professional scrutiny. She opened with a steady breath, allowing the initial tremors in her voice to settle. Thank you all for being here today. I appreciate your support as we dive into the findings of our initial data on adaptive resilience. Her introduction was an unsteady yet determined attempt to command the room. Each word felt like a challenge and an invitation all at once, laying the groundwork for what would unfold. As Emma animatedly discussed the data, detailing trends and potential implications, she found the rhythm of her thoughts syncing with those of her audience. Feedback from team members flowed like a tide, sometimes affirming her points, other times raising new questions that felt sharp and challenging, like knives poised to cut through her confidence. But rather than retreat, she embraced it. It's crucial that we analyze these early results critically, she said, weaving Jason's earlier skepticism into her narrative. We're aware of our boundaries, and it's our duty to challenge them while remaining evidence-based. The confidence in her voice surprised even her. Strength was beginning to replace the doubts that had shadowed her journey thus far. Yet when Jason's hand shot up during the Q&A, the room quieted as if sensing a storm brewing. You say evidence-based, but do you really believe this preliminary data can guide us? What if we're venturing too far too fast? His words were measured, yet the pointedness stung like a cold wind. Emma felt a flicker of uncertainty. The fear of failure whispered insidiously in the back of her mind, asking if her ambition really was substantiated. But she couldn't afford to dwell there. She tightened her grip on the podium, summoning the energy that had carried her through the recent weeks. I believe that innovation arises from calculated risks, Emma replied, her voice unwavering. Accepting uncertainty is part of our process as scientists. We seek to push boundaries, both in research and in ourselves. If we don't dare to ask the tough questions today, we'll continue to stall in yesterday's answers. A charged silence followed, a pause filled with the weight of her assertion. The look on Jason's face transformed. His hardline skepticism softened into something akin to contemplation, drawing a ripple of mixed reactions from their colleagues. Was this a breakthrough moment? Emma could feel the collective atmosphere shift, a subtle recognition of her leadership beginning to unfurl among her peers. As she wrapped up her presentation, the applause felt tentative but sincere. Emma took a small step towards the edge of her endeavor, glancing around the room to capture the spectrum of reactions, her eyes finally resting on Dr. Benson. He met her gaze, a mere nod, but it carried the gravity of acknowledgement, an endorsement of her readiness to confront the unknown. Days after the presentation, Emma's desk became a whirlwind of activity. New research was being designed and experiments planned based on their evolving hypotheses. She was invigorated but also aware that acceptance was merely the first step on this ambitious journey. Each day brought a fresh wave of challenges, new data, critiques from peers, and the persistent echo of Jason's earlier doubts looming just beneath the surface. In the midst of it all, Emma began to wonder, was her team truly aligned with her vision, or were they simply going along with her momentum? Navigating her leadership role was proving as vital as the research itself, and each decision became fraught with personal stakes. With another project meeting scheduled, Emma prepared to address her team's direction. This time, however, the stakes felt higher. Would she confront the deeper discrepancies within the group, or would she risk alienating those who might still harbor reservations about her methods? As she balanced between vision and collaboration, the balance of power subtly shifted within her realm. Emma was left to reckon with the lingering question: how far could her leadership extend if doubts still loomed in the minds of those around her? With that tension unresolved, She faced the next challenge not just as a scientist but as a questioner of her own place in the intricate dance of leadership. Would she uncover the hidden truths of her team's loyalties? Or would she stumble in her next step, overshadowed by her own decisions? The day of the project meeting arrived, and Emma stood in front of the conference room window, the early morning light washing over her as she rehearsed her thoughts. She believed in her vision. The data supported it. But she sensed a fracture among her team, a divergence that could send her grand ideas spiraling. With each ticking second, her mind churned through potential scenarios: confrontation, unearthing hidden resentments, or endorsing her collaborative approach and risking ambiguity. The weight of her responsibilities pressed heavily upon her shoulders, each decision feeling consequential. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead. As the team gathered, Emma felt a deep-seated anticipation thick in the air. She meticulously arranged her notes, a small attempt to gain control over the swirling uncertainties. "Thank you all for coming together," she began, her voice firm despite an undercurrent of nerves. "Today, I want to talk about our trajectory and align our goals moving forward." She outlined her ideas, synthesizing their collaborative work while inviting open dialogue. Yet, as she spoke, she lost sight of the faces before her. Instead, she perceived a web of thoughts and unvoiced concerns threading silently amongst them. Was she leading them with clarity, or simply dragging them along? When she finished her presentation, she paused, scanning the room for reactions. Jason's arms were folded, a protective barrier, while others exchanged glances brimming with uncertainty. Emma knew this was her moment to push deeper, to peel back layers. "Let us discuss how we feel about the direction we're heading in," she prompted, intentionally inviting scrutiny. "I want to hear your perspectives, even if they're critical." Clarity can only come through open communication. With her challenge set, the air crackled as the discussion unfurled. Opinions surfaced for the first time, and the atmosphere shifted from passive agreement to pointed critique. "Emma," Jason interjected, "you're talking about aggressive timelines, but what about the quality of our findings? We can't rush this." His words clawed at the edges of her confidence, the familiar pang of self-doubt creeping in. "But Jason, I sense this the same skepticism that held us back before? We need to challenge ourselves to explore more aggressively," she countered, her pulse quickening slightly. The room was divided. Half nodded in agreement with Jason, while others leaned toward her more ambitious vision. Emma realized she had touched a nerve, a deeper tension lurking beneath the surface. Her team had been strung along these middle ground ideas for too long. "Let us not forget that pushing boundaries leads to breakthrough discoveries," Emma continued, her voice unwavering, but now laced with urgency. "However, if concerns about pace and quality dominate our discourse, we won't move forward at all." Jason's gaze softened, revealing a hint of reluctant respect for her fiery response. "It's about trust, Emma. If we can't trust the integrity of our findings, what's the point of speed?" he said. His challenge resonated within her. The truth stung. Emma had to not only advocate for ambition but also need to assure her team that their work would be solid, comprehensive, and meaningful. She froze for a moment, the weight of her drive to accelerate clashing violently with the need for their trust and integrity. How to harmonize these forces? Her thoughts raced. Desperate to forge an alliance amidst the discord, she turned the question back to them. "What can I do to build that trust?" she asked, voice steady yet filled with vulnerability. "How can we ensure our pace and quality coexist?" As they began to engage more fully, exploring their hesitations and expectations, Emma's heart began to swell with hope. Perhaps she wasn't alone in her quest. Still, a gnawing fear lingered, quietly prodding behind her resolve. Was she equipped to merge ambition with the caution they sought? As the meeting concluded and the discussions wove into something resembling solidarity, a new sense of camaraderie flickered, a fragile bloom ready to take root. Emma left the conference room energized, but uncertainty sprawled in the shadows. She had cracked the surface, but the depths of her team's loyalties still lay beneath. Resilience emerged in her awareness. Action was crucial. She needed to navigate the murmurs of dissent, but in doing so, how much of her own leadership style must she reevaluate? And what hidden truths about herself were left waiting to be revealed as her team rose to face these challenges together? Each question tethered Emma closer to the idea that she might reshape not only her team's direction but her own identity as a leader. With determination fueling her next steps, she prepared for the journey ahead, feeling the ground beneath her shift ever so slightly. Would she ultimately succeed in weaving together their varied ambitions, or would her alliance unravel under the weight of truth? Emma stood in front of her team once more, a blend of anxiety and exhilaration thrumming through her. The project's progress had exceeded her expectations, each meeting revealing a new thread in their collaborative tapestry. Yet, she was keenly aware that this gathering was different. It would be a moment of pivotal reckoning, the culmination of her journey to establish her place not just as a contributor, but as a leader in paleontology. Thank you all for being here today. I truly appreciate your commitment as we move into this next phase of our project, she began, her voice resonating with a confidence that had blossomed through trial and introspection. As Emma guided them through their recent findings, her articulates shifted, focusing on the importance of clarity and trust. She watched the expressions on her colleagues' faces, noting how they leaned in, eager to engage. Their enthusiasm felt infectious, yet a part of her remained alert to the skeptics, especially Jason. After presenting their latest data, Emma encouraged open dialogue. What are your thoughts on where we stand and the next steps I outlined? A ripple ran through the room, prompting varied opinions and spirited debates that indicated her team was finally embracing their individual voices. When Jason's skepticism surfaced yet again, Emma felt that familiar ripple of anxiety. While I see the value in what we've achieved, I can't help but question if we're moving too fast without ensuring our findings have the depth they require, he said, his expression serious. This time, however, she felt empowered in her rebuttal. I understand your concern, and it's valid, she replied. However, we don't have the luxury of time. We must innovate, and the only way to refine our findings is to push our thinking. Can we not embrace a phased approach, accelerating our research while recognizing areas for deeper analysis? To her relief, the room erupted into a productive dialogue. They began to explore how to maintain speed without sacrificing rigor. Encouraged, Emma sensed the shift in Jason. When he offered constructive solutions, she acknowledged them, showing her commitment to collaboration. As the discussion flourished, a sense of unity enveloped the room. Through this exchange, something within Emma solidified a pathway forward not just for her research but for her own identity within the community. Leadership required constant adaptation and was built from earning trust and respect, not merely wielding authority. As the meeting concluded, Jason approached her, a tentative smile on his face. You've really grown, Emma. The way you handled the discussions today showed you belong in this sphere. I appreciate you bringing us all together. Emma felt a rush of satisfaction swell within her. These moments of recognition were not solely external validation but a testament to the hard work she had put into fortifying her voice amid skepticism. In the following weeks, she took deliberate strides to ensure her team operated cohesively, tapping into the strengths of their individual expertise. Emma led weekly brainstorming sessions, fostering an environment steeped in open dialogue, receiving feedback without defensiveness. With each conversation, she dismantled the barriers of doubt, proving to herself and her team's evolving dynamics that growth stemmed from shared ambition. Her interactions with Dr. Benson shifted as well. The respect she had earned became evident during project updates. He offered insights without the razor-sharp critique that had once stifled her. In fact, he began to encourage the independent threads of research blossoming within her project, inviting collaboration with other sectors, thus expanding their reach. Then came the culminating moment. After months of relentless dedication, Emma stood at a national paleontology conference, prepared to present their consolidated research on adaptive resilience in the face of climate change to a packed room full of esteemed peers. With her heart racing, she took a deep breath and began. As she outlined her findings, she infused her presentation with the collaborative essence her team had nurtured together. The thrill of connecting with her audience absorbed her, drawing them into the narrative of her research's implications. This was more than data. It was a collective journey that transcended individual efforts. The applause at the end felt like vindication, a resounding affirmation of her transformation. Emma had stepped onto this platform as the confident scientist she had always aspired to be, effectively demonstrating her evolution. Afterward, as she gathered her belongings, several colleagues approached her, praising her insightful approach and ideas. Among them, Dr. Benson offered a genuine nod. "Well done, Emma. Your leadership has made a significant impact on the field." In that moment, everything fell into place. She had reclaimed her ambition, forged a space for herself academically, and in doing so, transformed her identity both as a scientist and a mother. With Lucas by her side, watching from the back, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. They both had the adventure they craved, the intricacies of excavation in academia proudly embracing the unknown. Emma looked forward, ready to continue exploring the vast terrains of discovery ahead of her, driven by the knowledge that through collaboration, determination, and inherent courage, she could always reclaim her voice. Now is your chance to step into your own transformative journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it changes everything. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending, and let us ignite the conversation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.